For those of you who don't know Mary Jo, she works out of the Keller Williams Living Office. And Mary Jo, I'm going to let you introduce yourself here. But I asked her to do this specific session with me. Obviously, we're going to do a small focus on being a functionary agent and what that means versus being a fiduciary for our clients, which I think is going to show up and expose us as the industry changes a little bit. I think the bigger piece of the puzzle though is when we show up as a functionary, or I'm sorry, when we show up as a fiduciary, it means adding a ton of value into our clients. And I know Mary Jo, and I don't want to speak too much for her, but a lot of her business, most of her business comes from her sphere of influence and past clients and referrals and all the things. And so if anybody does value and pouring into people and showing up when your clients need them, it's her, which is why I asked her to be here. So Mary Jo, thanks for being here. Can you tell everybody a little bit about you, maybe who you are, when you got licensed, how long you've been in the business, and then what your team and your business looks like right now?
Sure. So I've been licensed for 14 years. It'll be 15 in April, which is kind of crazy. I originally did apartment management, and when I was doing that, I was like, "This is silly. Why don't I just go sell houses? Because it's going to be just like renting apartments." Actually, it's nothing like renting apartments. Um, but I think I knew at the time, like I was like 25, I knew that it was that I was good at sales from renting apartments. I was like, you know, if I'm able to do this, maybe I can, sell a house. So also at the time too, I was newly engaged and I knew that I was going to, well, hopefully be a mom. And I wanted a job that would be something I could balance with family life, which is kind of funny now.
Funny that you
Um,
thought that. All right.
yeah,
More fluidity versus flexibility, right? Like
yeah,
that.
100%, 100%. So, that's why I really got licensed is I thought, well, this is something I can figure out with a family. And my goal the first year I got licensed was just to replace my income of being managing apartments. So the first year I sold two houses. I still work my other job. I remember telling the ladies in the apartment management company that I was leaving to go sell real estate full time, and they both basically laughed in my face. Um, and they were like, how are you going to do that? Like, you're going to just work in commission. And that first year, I did make up my income. Plus, I made like 5,000 more. So I'm like someone. If you like ask me to commit something, I'm going to want to try and exceed it. So each year, the business has grown. In 20 gosh, probably 2019 into 20. Well, I hired my first admin in 2018. Um, Probably too late in the business. I feel like I should have done that sooner. I would have seen better growth. And then in 2020, I started bringing agents on my team. And I feel like we really probably just hit like a groove really in 2022, where I kind of, after having people on the team, I kind of realized what I need to focus in on for myself and my team. And that would be, understanding that for me, what's important on the team is being present in your database, growing your database, um, and really pouring into the people that already know, and like you, or maybe they don't like you, but they will like you, right? So that's kind of what we do on our team. That's something that I teach. And also, I'm like a big advocate just from being in this business 14 years now of, yeah, it can kind of be crazy, but when you are present, you need to be like 100% to your family or 100% to your clients, and just kind of really like living that balance, um, and leveraging when you need to leverage. Um, so that's something that's really big to me, in the team. I think last year as a team, we did like 25 million in business.
Yeah.
Um,
And how
and
many agents?
And that was myself. Mike Roberts is on the team. He's a high producing agent. Him and I are more of like a partnership kind of. And then we had one newer agent last year and two that maybe were on for a little bit. And then this year, the goal was 30 million. And I think we're going to hit it. Actually, I think we're going to exceed it, which I'm like thrilled. And again, too, that's with like right now we're at like 3 agents that are newer. And then myself and Mike. I know personally, my personal goal was 15 million for the year, and I know I'm at 12 million, close and pending. So I'm actually pretty excited about that. Um, especially as the market kind of changes a little bit. Again, too, I came into this year and I was like last year, I had a baby last year. My numbers probably were not necessarily where I personally wanted them to be. And actually had a conversation with like the title company, and they like redid our shares and stuff like that. And I don't know if that like lit a fire under me, but I was like, okay, like if
Got
you
some work to
thought,
do.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
like you thought I couldn't hit those numbers, I'll show you. So I'm actually like pretty excited about I think where we're gonna end up this year. I've been going so hard though, I'm like, maybe I just like it's okay if I slow down.
yeah,
But it's been a fun year. Lots of growth, lots of opportunities, and things like that.
good, cool. And a lot of that business, when we're going to get into this, is sphere of influence, almost 100% of it, and
Mhm.
past clients and referrals.
Correct.
So we're
Correct.
going to get into how you do it, why you do it, all the things. I think it's important for us to sort of give the explanation of what value is as we have these conversations. And the reason for that is, again, as we go into a skills market, it's important to understand that value is the heart of all businesses, because all businesses are an exchange of value. And so I think in our industry, what we're seeing right now is, we are going to determine the value that we provide to our clients, right? And you guys provide a lot of it at your
Mhm.
team. And then your
Mhm.
clients are going to determine how valuable that actually is, right? And I think
Mhm. Mhm.
that's sort of that weird pull and that tug from just being a functionary agent, and what are you giving them? And I know you have a story about that we're going to talk about in a little bit.
Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
at what point do you step up that game to become that fiduciary for your client? And what does that do for your business? So
Mhm.
I just wanted to start with that value piece of it, that like value is the heart of it. And then you guys and us in this industry, we're telling our clients, these are what we provide you. And then they're deciding right now more than ever what it's actually worth to them, right? Cool. So I think there's three things that agents present and deliver value. And I think it happens at different points in the transaction and different points of the relationship with the clients. I think it starts with establishing trust. And I think we do that a few different ways. I think the second thing is that we offer them fiduciary representation versus functionary. And then we get to do something fun at the end, or something fun during the transaction, which is what we call the wow experience. And that's where Mary Jo, you and the team come in a little bit. So let's have the conversation of establishing trust and what that looks like. And I grabbed this from something else that Keller Williams put together. No, I'm not this smart. But there's this circle of trust that happens with a client almost immediately when you start having the conversation and you start building that relationship with them. And the first thing that you build with them is empathy. So you're going into a listing appointment, you're going into a buyer consultation, and you're being understanding, and you're being caring, and you're being your true authentic self. And you're saying, yes, I know you lived in this house for 30 years. And yes, I know those photos were taken when you bought this house. You're having empathy, and you're sort of building that circle of trust from the very first day that you walk in there. And then the second thing is competency. I think the best way we show competency with anybody is our knowledge, our skills, and our experience. I think a lot of those things come from storytelling, right? So I just helped a client sell their house that they had been in for 30 years on your street. Or I've been doing this for 14 years and I sold 25 million last year, right? Like we're building that circle of trust slowly. And then it's our job to kind of stop and start and make sure that that circle of trust continues. The third one is transparency. So I mean, this is like one of the most important things that we have to do to continue that trust, which is just being very honest, bringing a lot of clarity to the transaction, to the process, right? I saw this saying that like the most important thing we can say to a client is, here's what's going to happen next, right? So bringing a lot of clarity, bringing a lot of transparency, making sure that we're communicating, that's how you continue on that. And then the last one is dependability. So expectations set, promises kept, and confidentiality met. So One of my biggest pet peeves is when people overpromise and underdeliver, and your clients are no different than that. So, Mary Jo, I want to ask you a question, and it's kind of two questions. We're going to start with buyers. When you walk into a buyer consultation, how do you immediately build this circle of trust? What's something that you say to them or something that you do every single buyer consultation to build this circle of trust with somebody?
Yeah, so I normally do a buyer intake call, is like my number one step. I don't know if that's going to officially shift to in person, but I normally would do a call and then we would meet in person. Um, and our first meeting would normally be at a house. And I'm sure some people will say that's the wrong way of doing it, but whatever, that's what I've done.
Well, Mary Jo, you're on
Um,
the call, so you get to share what you're doing.
okay. So um now though I do like I've been thinking about this a lot with the changes obviously. I'm like, I don't know, it feels kind of tacky to like be on the hood of my car signing a document. So I do think that the buyer agreement needs to be signed before meeting now. And I even put this in the Keller Williams Living Group, like I never had done a buyer's agreement before. And that was only, and I didn't done it because I feel like I work on such a level of trust. I want them to trust me. I want to trust them. So, I go through like, okay, if you go to a builder, if you go to for sale by owner, blah, blah, blah. I have that spiel with them on the first call. And I remember like I got in the habit, I was getting really busy and I got in the habit of just diving in to being like, hey, how many bedrooms and baths? Like, what's your square footage? What's your budget? And then, like, probably about a year ago, I was like, okay, like, they're not working on like the pace I am of my mind being like, get through this. So now I'm always like, hey, nice to meet you. Why don't you tell me a little bit about yourself?
Mhm.
And if they, your family, if they have a dog, those kind of things. I feel like if you find out someone has a dog, you instantly know that a fenced in backyard's value just went up, right? Um, so, having that kind of pleasantry intake call. Um, and then two, setting the expectation on that call if you're on a team. I know for myself personally, I do have members on my team show houses for me some from time to time. So setting that expectation that I won't be the only one working with you. Um, and again, too, like the buyer's agency agreement for me, and this again is maybe a positive and a negative. I'm always like, oh, people are nice, and I always expect the best of people. So I never had them sign anything because I'm like, well, if they don't want to work with me, they don't have to work with me. But, so now it's kind of like, okay, let me think of it like if I was at a listing presentation, and on a listing presentation, I am going to ask you to sign the listing agreement, right?
Right.
So it's just kind of taking a step back and putting kind of on that mindset,
Yeah.
um, is and to build that trust. And then two, um, when you're building the trust, it's like, what is the one thing you're going to relate with this person on, right? So I'm always kind of trying to dig, like, what is going to be our relatable thing? Is it that they have kids? Okay. Then that's obviously like a no-brainer. Like I can talk about kids all day long with someone. But if they don't have kids, okay, do they have a pet? Am I relating to them on that level? Um, is there a job? Like, what's their job? Like, what are we leaning into on this to make them comfortable? And then, or, are they from the area? Or are they like a foodie person? Like, but what are you connecting with that person on? I think the trust a lot of times is more built on like the friendship. And I
Mhm.
think that's probably why my business is like very sphere and repeat is because like I think of myself as these people's friends. Like there's one client, she was a referral from her mom, and like it's like a joke that I was influential in her having a second child because because we would always like joke around about it. And then like once she found out she was pregnant, like obviously I become way too good of friends with people. She's like texting me like, "Hey, you're one of the first people to know."
It's wild.
Um, yeah, yeah, yeah. So Danielle, don't have too many conversations with me. I'll sign you up for baby too. I'm just
No
kidding. I know.
way.
I'm
No way.
joking.
This is the last conversation. I'm just kidding. Okay, so talk to me about sellers. Is it pretty similar? Like you're walking in there trying to build rapport pretty quickly. Like, is it
Oh,
sort of,
great. So when
yeah.
we were going through this, I would say like Mike Roberts on my team took me on a listing appointment. He'd been licensed for many years. He took me on a listing appointment and he was like, he's like, you're like a roadmap when you go through this place. I was like, yeah, because I know exactly what I'm doing each time. I'm doing a tour of the house. This should take like 15 minutes. I'm, well, first I'm doing a pre-listing call. If you're not doing a pre-listing call, you need to do it. 100% you need to do a pre-listing call. I'm asking on the pre-listing call, what do you think? Well, I'm asking about their home, what their favorite part is of the home. I'm asking what they think the home is. So we're building up pre-listing. I'm building up a relationship with them. I'm getting to the listing. I'm remembering what they said they love about the home. I'm complimenting that in the home. I'm only complimenting the whole walk of the home. Even if I see an electrical panel that's a Federal Pacific, I'm not even pointing it out at the time. I'm complimenting the home. If it smells like someone is running a kennel out of their living room, I'm only complimenting the home. Okay. Um, then we are sitting down at the table and I'm going through the listing. I'm showing you comps, and I'm telling you what I think your home is, or I ask which one of these homes is most like yours, and then I have a net sheet to reflect that. Um, but also too, like it's a circle of building the trust, the call, the walkthrough, and hopefully by the walkthrough, I know what they think is funny or like something relatable. Again, is it kids? Is it dogs? Is it their job? Is it whatever local? Maybe I'm noticing on the wall they have a Michigan State thing, and I'm saying like, oh, gotta take that down. That's super offensive. Like whatever it is. But building trust and like zoning on whatever we think is um, the one thing we're connecting on, right?
Sure.
And then I would say too, on the listing presentation, I will say this is so fascinating. Obviously, with all the changes, I recently went on a listing appointment and the guy said, I did say, like, I'm sure you've read about or do you know about, I think I said, do you know about the changes? He said, yes. Um, and then we started talking and he said that he had met with a Berkshire Hathaway agent and they said it was business as usual. I was like, well, I don't really know if that's how I would explain it. Um, Again, each one of us are going to have our own take on how we're explaining this. I said, but these are the changes. I walked him through it. I explained it. And his takeaway, he texted me afterwards and he said, we really appreciated your honesty on the situation. Because on it, I said, commission's always been negotiable. I said, but now what we're seeing is sometimes people, um, maybe are deciding not to offer a buyer's agency commission. I explained why I didn't think that was a good idea. And he said to me too, like, we don't want to be like, we're not, I mean, his term, he said, like, we're not assholes. Like, we're going to offer. Is that okay to
Yeah,
say? I don't know. Okay.
sure.
He's like, he said, he said, like, I respect you. And we're not going to be the first guys that are out there saying, like, no, we're not offering a commission. He's like, no, we want to do that. And I understand the reason behind it. And I understand that the commission has always been part of the price of the home. So I think that was like really big is one, I addressed it. And two, like it was another level of building trust.
Yeah.
Um, and I even was like really honest. I'm honestly like probably too honest because I literally said like this is a little bit of a new frontier for me as well.
Mhm.
Um, and I even said like normally I go through my listing presentation, I know what to say for everything. I said this is a new conversation, so I'm just gonna have the conversation with you. Um, and he did literally the text he sent me was like, we really appreciated your honesty. Um, so I think like when you're honest about things like that, he knows that like when I'm negotiating, I'm going to have his best interest at heart.
Well, you're being
Um,
authentic too, and you're
yeah.
coming from a good place, which I think builds on the relationship, which like speaks to the fact that almost 100% of your business is referrals or sphere of influence, past clients, things like that. Because
Hmm.
when
Hmm.
you're authentic with people and you're just honest, maybe the agent, right? We don't know, but maybe that agent wasn't even really sure of what was happening. And so that was the best, objection that they could give back, right? We don't know, but I think when
Yes.
you're
Yes.
honest and there's a little bit of humility in there, like, and maybe humility should be on this circle of trust too. Like, I think that
Hmm.
makes people understand the whole, like you as a whole person, instead of
Hmm.
you as this like robot that's going through these new changes. And
Yeah. Even even from when I was a brand new agent, I remember always using the line, I'm not sure, but let me check with someone else and I'll get back to you. And
100.
I think too, I don't know if this is like an age thing or like just a life experience thing, but I have found, I used to be like, say like, oh, I'm embarrassed instead of like just letting myself be humbled and figuring something out. Like you don't need to be embarrassed that you don't know the answer. Like it's humbling to be like, hey, I'm not sure on this, but I'm going to find the answer and bring it back to you the best I can. So like it's okay to embrace, like, lean into, like, yeah, we're gonna figure it out. I mean, obviously you should know what you're talking about to an
Yeah.
extent, and you do want to come off professional, but I mean, this change just happened to, like, this, I went on the listing appointment on Friday, and so the change had been, I think it was the day of the change, right?
Right.
Um, so yeah, just like being authentic, I think really, really builds the trust with people.
Yeah. Good. Okay. So one, right? Like that circle of trust, building the trust, starting it from day one, and then making sure that we like, I think it's like a stop and a start, and then it's like a continuous thing. Like we've done transparency, let's get to dependability. And then like if we need to throughout the transaction, let's go back to empathy. Like I think that is how you
Mm,
consistently build on that relationship. And then the second one is offering that client like fiduciary representation. So when I say that, not everybody knows what that word is. And I think even when we were getting ready for this, I was like, let me go Google it to make sure I have the words the right way. But in my mind, what I think between functionary and fiduciary is functionary is just checking off boxes, right? Like
mm,
functionary agents do the bare minimum to get through the transaction and get paid. And sometimes they don't always answer their phone on time. And sometimes they don't always get back to clients. And sometimes clients don't even know the difference between the two of them until they get stuck in a bad experience. So it's our job to get to those clients beforehand so that doesn't happen to them. And so fiduciary on the other side, and there's probably a slide on this, is the like at some point, my client's experience and their needs and their wants are more important than mine, right?
mm,
Like that's when you step into that fiduciary role. And I think our job as real estate agents, even before this change, I think even before this change, but what this is doing is it's exposing the fiduciary from the functionary. And so to me, right, and I know Mary Jo, you have a conversation or you have a
mhm,
story about this
mhm.
that I'd love for you to share, but
Yeah.
like I said, functionary is shallow relationships. They're just checking boxes. They're telling and selling. They're telling their clients exactly what to do. Whereas fiduciary, like they're asking questions, they're educating throughout the process, right? They're saying things like, this is what's going to happen next. They're understanding the market before they show up to the house. They're doing all the things and then they're keeping sort of that circle of trust there. So
Mhm,
if you didn't know what the differences were before today, I think as we step into this market and what we should have been doing was already offering fiduciary representation. And I think you can still get better at those things. It's just going to require a little bit more work. So Mary Jo, tell us the fun story. Don't tell us the agent's name or where they're from, but tell us the story that you told me yesterday on the phone, just to paint a picture of fiduciary versus functionary.
Yeah, so I was doing a deal with, an agent, and he had a buyer. He had an agent. I don't even, it's not on his team. He paid an agent to show a buyer a house. I don't know what his relationship was with the buyer. And then he paid an agent to sit at the home inspection, and then he paid an agent to walk through the property to, I think they were getting like an estimate for something. And then there was no final walkthrough. And then I know he asked me if he could give the code to the buyer once it closed so they could get the keys. So I'm all about leverage. I think it's great. But I'm not sure how much of a relationship was built with him and the client
Mhm.
when he literally, in my understanding is he never physically was at the house at all with the client. And everyone gets busy, and I definitely get busy, and I definitely have paid people to sit on inspections. I definitely have paid people to do showings for me. Um, and I definitely have asked, is it okay if I give a buyer a code just based on whatever? But the agent constantly, um, it's just fascinating to me because I wanted to say, have you met this person in person, like at all? And also the house was he wrote an offer above list price. I think we ended up closing at list price actually. But I mean, the house was not in great shape. And I thought, I don't think he knows what this house is. I think he basically passed everything off. And I don't know how this agent has grown their business. But I would imagine that it's not going to be based on referrals or sphere based.
Sure.
Um, and you can definitely grow your business other ways, but I do think that if you base it on database, sphere of influence, referrals, repeat clients, I do think in the end, your P&L is going to look a lot better, and your return is going to look a lot better. And again, you can choose to do your business in any way, but I think if you want a long, longevity of a business, I think that, the relationship aspect is so key. And Danielle and I were even like talking yesterday, and she was like, "You should put that person in your database." I was like, "Honestly, I'm probably going to." Um,
Yeah, so we've heard of like orphan clients, right? Like for
mhm,
the functionary
yeah,
agent that isn't doing, like if they haven't built trust and they haven't built a relationship with this person, 9.5 times out of 10, as soon as that deal closes, they're moving on to the next one. And so we at Keller Williams call those orphan age or orphan clients. And that orphan client should absolutely go in your database, Mary Jo, because they're not going to get loved on. They're not going to get different sort of campaigns. Nobody's going to check in on them in a year to see
yeah,
how their house is. Like that is the difference between being a functionary agent in this industry and then being that fiduciary is
yeah.
doing those things.
And, like, even, like, a quick, easy thing, like, we do, like, a home anniversary card. I know,
Mhm.
whatever, a lot of people do that now. Not like it's original idea at all. They get a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card, because a $5 Starbucks gift card gets you nothing now. So they get a $5 Dunkin' Donuts gift card, and, like, I'm like, "I should just add that woman in my database because she's gonna get a home anniversary card." And she's gonna be like, "What?" You know what I mean? It'll blow her mind.
Yeah.
Um,
Well, and how
yeah.
many other like orphan clients are there of agents that are working in that functionary role that aren't, again, like then they're just finding a different agent the next time they need something. They're not going back to that person. So,
Yeah, I had, the first time ever, maybe other well, actually, I take that back. I've had this happen twice. I had one time I represented the buyer on a sale of a property, and that seller referred me to someone else. And they
mhm,
said, "Hey, my friend so and so referred you. You sold their house." And I was like, "I sold their" I obviously didn't say this on the phone. I was like, "I sold their house." And I realized I represented the buyer. So they
yeah,
weren't even referring the agent that represented them. And then I did have another one where it's a buy sell and it should be like a sell for 450 and a buy up to like 1 million. And that is someone who bought one of my listings, um, and used another agent who's pretty popular in the West Akron area. But they will not be using her again. And now they're my clients. And it was, just, you know, being present more, I guess, in the transaction than the other agent was.
yeah, yeah, cool. So we can hit some of these pretty quickly, but I think for sellers are the responsibility becomes ours when they stop being a customer and they start being a client. So we've always sort of had this with sellers because we've slid a listing, we've signed a listing agreement across the table and they have signed it. And so for sellers, our job is obviously to net the most amount of money with the fewest amount of hassles in the least amount of time for them. I think what's interesting about buyers, and you sort of said this, Mary Jo, you've always just worked on trust. And so you just said, if they don't want to work with me, then they don't have to if I'm not providing that level of service. So you've always provided the fiduciary amount of value. And yet you were almost operating as functionary. You just like didn't
Mm,
know. And the rest of our industry was doing the exact same thing, right? Because we weren't all getting these buyer agreements. And then when you go from customer to client and you really say, I own this entire process with you and I'm here alongside of you, that's when you step into that functionary relationship or that fiduciary relationship. So for buyers, it's finding the right property that meets their timing needs and gets it at the best price with the fewest amount of hassles. And I think for us, even if, different brokerages are teaching different things, but even if we're signing a buyer agency agreement for this specific house, right? Then we're going to give them the best level of service in this one specific house so that we've earned the right to work alongside of them for the next 6
mm,
months or the next 12 months or whatever that looks like. Cool. So number three is giving the wow experience. So I think, again, it starts with trust and then it comes into providing an experience for them and the value of being a fiduciary versus a functionary. And then it's giving them this wow experience. And I think the wows and I think the yays and I think the fun ways that we can create interaction with our clients and we can create great customer experiences with them comes throughout the transaction. So what I wanted to ask you, because you are so heavy on sphere of influence, because you're so heavy on referrals, what do you think you're doing throughout the customer experience that is different than other people? Like if somebody's sitting on this call and they want to make more of their business sphere of influence, or they want to make more of their business referral based, right? Maybe they're not doing the right follow-up. Maybe they have some orphan clients by accident because they didn't do the check-ins. What are a few things that you're doing better than anybody else that earns you the right for 98% sphere of influence and past clients and referrals?
Yeah, so we I'm always shocked at one, the lack of follow-up with people after they close. And then two, the lack of thoughtfulness in people after they close. So everything I do, I've probably copied from someone else when I was listening to a call or someone I followed on Facebook or someone I followed on Instagram. Um, so none of these ideas are original. I've just kept and stuck with them. So we do the pie event like every other realtor. I don't care. People love it. We did switch it to pies and pints. It's at a brewery and they can get a beer, they can get a pie. This year we're going to have a food truck to make it a little bit bigger. And then we also do a baseball game. Those are two in-person events we do. And then secondly, some other things we do throughout the year, we'll start with generic. We do baseball and football magnet, get that in the mail. Um, we do a lotto ticket for St. Patrick's Day. I went to Acme and I bought 500 $1 lottery tickets and we sent out 500 lotto tickets. I laugh because Mike Roberts is new on the team and I've been doing this for years. He always gets interaction when his things go out. And like my clients must have expected at this point. Like if I didn't send the lottery ticket, they'd be like, "Where's my lottery
You
ticket?" Mike's
then you
people
get
are
the
like,
interaction, yeah.
yeah, Mike's are like, "Oh my gosh, thank you so much." We did do in July, we did super cute. It said like call me if you need the scoop on the market. We just did those to our top 50 and then they got a gift card for a local ice cream place. Always do local when you can. Same with our pies, they're local. We don't do the Sam's Club pies. For closing, they get a welcome mat. They get again, two people don't do closing gifts. I mean, you literally can't spend $50 on someone that you've just made like, I don't know, 2,500 plus on. Like you can spend $50 on a gift. It will make people feel good. We do a bottle champagne. We have our logo on a ribbon. We have a welcome mat that's tied up. And then the one thing that we do that has been really well received, and we do this for buy sell, is on Etsy. We just get a picture of the house. You can get it like digitally created where it looks like a painting. It's like I think it's like $15. And then we frame them. I don't do a big frame. I do like a tabletop size frame from Target. And we frame the picture and then that's in the bag too. And that picture gets a lot of positive feedback. Buyers love it. They like think it's like really cute to have. Sellers like become like a little emotional about it, honestly, when they open up the picture. Um, and see, a picture of a house they spent memories with their kids with. My mom found out I was doing it. She was like, "Can you do that for my house? Like the house we all grew up in?" Because like I don't even know if I got her a closing gift when she closed. But but like that's something that people really have loved. So I don't think I really spend a lot of money on it, but it's just being thoughtful. And two, I see sometimes people putting like full baskets together. Like I'm doing the same thing every time, so they don't have to reinvent the wheel. Like I'm going to Target, and like I do have someone who helps me. They're buying like 15 mats to have on hand. We always have a case of champagne on hand. So it's just like buying it in bulk and then getting it ready and getting it out the door. Sometimes we do a welcome like a housewarming plant too in the thing. And again, that plant's from Mark's. Like it's like a $10 plant put in like a $5 pot. Like
Sure.
you don't have to like overthink this. If you're just on your own, like you have plenty of time to go do this. I do pay someone to help me with it because obviously I don't have time to go do it all. But it makes me look really nice. Um and I think if you're newer too, this would be a good idea if you're newer and you're looking for something cheap to do, have them take the picture with the sold sign. You don't, I always ask permission if I can post on social media, and people do say no, which I totally respect. Have them take the picture with the sold sign, and then a week later, drop it off, print the picture at CVS. That's like $1.50. Put it in a Target frame, that's $10, and put that on their front step because one, obviously that moment's really, everyone gets really excited for that moment. And then 2, nobody prints pictures anymore, I find, at least I don't. But, like, if you get a printed picture in a frame and then you, like, put that on your table in your house, like, people would notice it. They'd be like, "Oh, that's so cute. Is that when you bought your house?" And be like, "Oh, our realtor gave us that." And
Mm.
then, like, you're part of the conversation. But that's I used to do that too, and that was, like, really cheap, really easy, thing to do.
Talk to me about, okay, so we've got events throughout the year that you're obviously inviting your entire sphere of influence to. You're inviting your agents, and obviously they're showing up.
Mhm,
You're doing closing gifts that are relatable, cheap-ish,
mhm.
affordable, let's use that word.
Yeah.
What are you doing throughout the transaction to make that client feel special? You don't have to buy them anything, but like,
Sure, sure.
check in the box of like, let's talk about that.
I have a this is again too is because now I've built up to this level is I have a transaction coordinator and she is checking in with you weekly and sending you a weekly email update. Some people might think it's obnoxious and some people have said, "Hey, I don't need this email." Cool, fine. You don't need this email. But it's the top of mind of this person saying, "Hey, here's your weekly update." The email includes when they're getting their keys and when they're closing in every email because sometimes people don't realize some people will move here from another state and they think they're getting keys at the closing table, and it could be like 5 p.m. that day. So you always want to remind people of the important dates in the transaction, and that too. Then too, if you can't have a transaction coordinator or an assistant do these things for you, do it yourself. I did it for myself for like 8 years, where I would be sending the weekly email. There's always like that lull in the contract, right? Where you're through inspection and you're waiting around for closing. And I remember sometimes being like, "Oh, I guess we just do nothing here." But they're still getting the weekly updates from my transaction coordinator. And like I said, I used to do the weekly update. And then they're getting a closing week email that says what the utilities are, and if we're doing a final walkthrough. Um, I don't know if there's anything like wow going on at this time, but I think it's more of the we're on top of it and you don't just like go away from us for 2 to 3 weeks after the inspection.
Sure. Okay, good. Anything else to add here on like delivering a wow experience for your people in your world?
Um, I think like obviously if people aren't doing things like this, but like add them on social media. That's like super easy to do. Um, and then yeah, oh, I mean they get a home anniversary card. But just doing it, like you can have like all these pie in the sky high like great ideas, but like you need to do them. Like that's, part of it is do the ideas. Um, when I think I didn't really start really honing in on this kind of stuff until I had someone I was paying to help me. So I had a lot of ideas, but I just couldn't get them done. So I think it's more honing in on what the ideas are, setting the calendar for the year, and then actually committing and doing it. Like it's literally how I have grown my business now at this point and the consistency. Oh, another thing, one more thing I will think is referrals. Send a freaking referral gift to someone. I don't know what it is or what it looks like for you. I know what we have leaned into now is we ship them a box of Mally's chocolates. Because one, it's click, 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 it's there, and it's like $40. Now if someone sent me a huge referral, I'd probably, you know, up the ante and get them like a gift card to a fancy restaurant in town. But like I have someone that just sent me a referral for like a $250 listing or whatever. And like, they are getting a Mally's chocolate. And people love it. I mean, unless they're like anti-sugar, which some people are. But for the most part, people are gonna be
If they love
or
it and
they're
they'll give it to somebody else. Yeah, for
right,
sure.
or they'll give it to someone else, they'll take it to their office, and then they take it to their office if they're not gonna eat it themselves, and then they go to the office and they say, "Oh my gosh, where did you get oh, my realtor sent this for sending a referral." So
Yeah. Good. Cool. Okay. So building the trust, obviously, in level one, right? Understanding the fiduciary versus the functionary. Something else I'm going to say on this. So, and I said this at our team meeting yesterday. I think sometimes what we do as agents is when you guys are going into buyer consultations, I know we've got these one-page sheeters that says, these are all the things that I do for you, right? For buyers, these are the 100 tasks that I do for you, or these are the 100 tasks that I do for you as a seller. And I think what I heard you say is by asking questions and connecting with them and learning what's important to them, you can kind of pick out some of the things that are important to them instead of giving like a menu of items that they can
Mm,
sort of pick through and
I would
decide what your value is.
I would be leery about, like, I love those kind of sheets, but I would be leery about sending someone 100 things you're going to do unless you're literally going to do all those 100 things, right?
Well, and
So,
what if they don't need those 100 things, right? Like, so I think
correct,
that
correct.
conversation, especially like, value is like you present your value and then they decide what that value is worth to them, especially
Hmm.
like in this market that we're in when we are negotiating what we're making as agents. What if they say, what if the buyer says to you, well, I don't need these three things.
Right.
Is it cheaper to work with you, Mary Jo, since I don't need these three things, right? So
Yeah.
you're giving a menu. So stop doing that, agents. You can have it in your back pocket if you need it. And I think having a conversation, asking the right questions, and then being able to speak specifically to those things, like you were saying, in some of your pre-listing conversations, you're asking the right questions, and then you're showing up and remembering what they said to
Hmm.
you so that you can point those things specifically out to them. I think it's huge. So
Yeah, like remembering the dog's name will get you so far in life, right? If you can remember the dog's name, right?
that is so true. Yeah. So with that, I have sort of 5 questions that I pulled out. So if you guys know who Phil Jones is, he was at Mega Camp and he did a 20-minute presentation and it was amazing. And
Mm,
there were 5 questions that he said that we should all take into all of our conversations as we think through our responsibility to our client in a functionary versus being the fiduciary to those clients. So I'm going to read through these awkwardly, but what is your experience in working with a professional? Oh, look, see, I made my own slides when there's a typo. Uh, a professional real estate agent. So I think the key words there are what is your experience, right? So what has happened to you in the past? And then working with a professional real estate agent makes people think a little bit differently about what we do. Like there's your one piece of value that you're already adding into the conversation. The second question is, what do you understand about your options that are available? Oh my God, look at this. This is why I don't do my own marketing that are available to you at this point, right? Again, instead of sliding a sheet of these are all the things you could do, what do you understand right now about your options that are available as a seller or as a buyer?
mm,
Okay. The next question is, what do you understand about the process and how it works from here, right? So this is what's going to happen from here. That question, again, what's your experience? What do you understand? What do you understand? And then you get to ask the question of how important are all these things to you, right? So how important is it to you that you have someone that can help you with blank? And so I think what we're doing and what you do a really good job at, Mary Jo, is I mean, as silly as it sounds, I have a dog, so I know I need a fenced-in backyard, right? Or I have um, I have a mother-in-law that will be moving in with me and we need something on the first floor. So I think by asking these first 4 questions, then you get to tie it to how important is it to you that you have someone that can help you with a fenced-in backyard or that can help you with downsizing and dealing with the last 30 years of your life in this home. I think when you ask questions like that, you don't have to slide the paper over that says these are the 50 things that
I
we do.
also think too, and I do this on a listing appointment in the pre-listing call. I say, what are the 3 most important things to you in your real estate agent? And then
Mhm.
instantly, if they've had a bad experience in a realtor, I'm knowing that next sentence because we're going to say, trust the last person we worked with. And then they go on, and you're like, okay, like mental note, right?
Yeah.
And so, too, now that's something, again, because before we didn't necessarily talk about money up front with a buyer. Now it's, hey, what are the 3 things you are looking for in a realtor? Because then if they say it's communication, then I'm going to over communicate with you. If it's trust, how am I building the trust with them? If it's please send me something the second it goes on the market, okay, then I need to make sure that's on my radar. Um, just I think these are great and just asking questions. You can never go wrong when you ask. You can never ask, in my opinion, too many questions. I know that might be obnoxious at sometimes, but like you just want to, and then you can listen too. Let them tell you what they expect. I think these are great.
Well, I think the compensation conversation that happens is easier after you've asked these 5 questions. Like if you
100%.
ask the right questions and get people thinking, and then share what you're going to do to help them. That compensation conversation, after you've built the trust, after you've shown the relationship that you can have with them, and after you've asked them the right questions, I think that's when you earn the right to be their agent. And then you get to create a little bit of wow, right?
Mhm.
So I think the rest of it is easier after you've asked good questions. Um, cool. Anything else on this? Any other questions that you're asking, Mary Jo?
I like I said, I really think like what do you expect from your agent is a big
Yeah.
one.
Yeah.
Um, I think too, just like I have found again, might not work for everyone, but like the conversations I've had around the changes too, just kind of being like, hey, this is new to me too, or this way of doing it is new to me. Um, I mean, I always feel like you can't go wrong if you're just honest.
Yeah, you can
Um,
be well educated, you can understand what's
yeah,
happening, and you can still be honest that this is the first few times that you've done it.
correct. And just say like that, hey, like this is the new changes, we have to do it. And I just had someone sign a buyer's agency. I was actually out of town and we had a phone call around it and I explained what they were signing, I explained the reason why. And I said, hey, to be honest, even I don't even feel comfortable talking about compensation. I mean, again, people might say, like, oh, Mary Jo, you shouldn't say it. I'm just being honest. That's who I am as a person. I don't feel comfortable talking about it, but I'm going to now talk about it with you and I'm going to explain how I got paid and how I could get paid moving forward.
Yeah.
People are just, I think when you're authentic, no matter what you're talking about, if you're authentic, people can feel it in
Like, don't make it
conversation.
weird. You don't have to make
Yeah,
it
a hundred
weird. Just be
percent.
honest, right? Like, you
Yeah,
don't act
yeah,
like you know something. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah.
Okay, so Bobby Cugini threw something in the chat here. So he's asking you, how often are you initiating a call to your, so there's a few questions in here. How often are you
Okay.
initiating a call to your past clients? And how many total touches do you think you're giving in 12 months? So let's start with those two questions.
Yeah, so a call is going to be a 0 because I don't want to get on the phone. You don't want to get on the phone with me, right? If I'm calling you, Bobby, I don't know where you are and can't see your face. So it's very intimidating speaking to the dark unknown. But I literally I wouldn't I'm thinking of myself, like I'm 40 years old, I'm a mom. I don't want someone calling just to check in with me. That feels weird and really inauthentic to me. Sorry, it does. Again, probably like some people do the alphabet calling. Um,
Yeah.
that's cool. I find that there's more authenticity for me in commenting on your kids going back to school on social media, commenting on your Instagram story. Oh my gosh, that looks like so much fun. What a great vacation. Um, commenting, oh, you ran the Akron Marathon. That's so great. I feel like that's more authentic. If I was calling people, I feel like that would be weird. For me
For
personally.
you and your time.
Maybe you're
Yeah.
gonna thrive in that, and that's cool. Maybe a text, like I am happy to get a text like, hey, saw this and thought of you, or I mean, to be honest, when business is a little slower, I will throw out text. Drove by your house, it looks great. Hope you all are doing well. Um, Only because does the person really want to get on a phone call with me to chit chat? I don't know. I'm not like the Ford script girl. You're supposed to do the Ford sandwich. That's never been me. But that's cool if it's someone else and it works for someone else. But
Well,
that,
okay, hold on. I'm going to interrupt you because I don't think it's you for a phone call, but I think when you said that how you connect with people at a house, you literally said it was Ford, right? You're like, maybe we have,
yeah,
like,
that's true.
maybe it's
True.
their job. That's occupation. Like, you didn't even
Yeah.
know you said it and you absolutely use the Ford. You just do it. You'd prefer to do it in person versus
In
like on the phone. Yeah.
100% in person.
Yeah.
100% in person. Yeah. I mean, if I was just like checking in on people throughout whatever, that'd be like strange to me. But like I do think, and again, this is like a whole social media component, which is a whole nother conversation. I do a lot on social media. I'm very active on social media, and I will have past clients like text me and say things like, "Hey, I saw your kids ran the bases after the Guardians game. Is that every Sunday?" That they allow kids to run the bases. One, I had no idea this guy followed me on social media. Apparently he does. He is a past client, but he saw me doing that with my kids and I posted about it. And like it has nothing to do with real estate, but it's a conversation where he came to me thinking I was a local expert and engaged with me on it. Did I know if they did it every week? No. Did I Google it? Yes. And did I provide the answer? Yes. But did I tell him bro, that's completely on the website. You can go check it out. No, I like just looked it up and then told him. But like you want to be that person for people, or people will say to me, like I'll post about restaurants and going out to dinner and stuff like that. And they'll be like, oh my gosh, we love it there. You know what I mean? Like, okay, maybe I sold them a house 2 years ago and now we're talking about a local brewery we both love.
Yeah.
Um, so things like that. So I don't call. They do get a text from me inviting them to Pies and Pints, and they do get a text inviting them to the Guardians game. Some people don't respond. Cool. I don't care. Some people sign up and don't say anything. And then I see them at the event and it's an in-person conversation, which is great. And then I think the other thing was how many touches. They get 12 email newsletters. Our email newsletter does always include a local business spotlight. It does always include something on my family. And then it includes a little bit on real estate. Um, uh, During the school year, not in summer, I do like what's happening in Akron or Northeast Ohio for the weekends. That gets sent out. I use BombBomb for email because you can send a video in it. I don't know if anyone knows about BombBomb. I think a lot of people use it at this point,
Yeah.
but you can send videos through it. And then they do get something in the mail or can come or invited to something. I would say those are probably end up being like 12 a year. Um, Something every month though is like, okay, if they're getting a baseball magnet in May, then what are we doing in June? Okay, that's actually the baseball event. July was the ice cream, August was a football magnet. September, maybe we'll do like another postcard again, like hope like back to school or something. Um, I've done I've done other things. I used to deliver pumpkins to 50 people. I just kind of realized what worked and didn't work, and what I felt passionate about and what I didn't. Um, but like it's probably I mean, I would say it's probably like 24 touches of something, a mailer, an email. They also get sent every listing. Some people unsubscribe. I don't care, unsubscribe, but they get sent the listing videos. Yeah, it's a lot. My one sister told me she blocked me, and that's fine.
Cool. Any other questions for Mary Jo? Queen of sphere of influence and referrals and all the things and value pouring into people and her community. Cool. All right, Mary Jo, we appreciate you being here. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And if you guys need anything, let us know. If you have any questions, let us know. We'd be happy to touch base with you or help you on any of the things. And we'll talk soon. Have a great day. See you guys.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.